be done as a statesman.
Perhaps the management of the whole process, because we also saw, the government introduced the CNG, there were several palliative projects, but people felt like, this wasn't a clear, thought-out policy. The policies were good, but the planning, they say, was poor.
I don't agree. I think a lot of times, a lot of Nigerians just don't believe, they are used to people lying to them, especially politicians lying to them. So they don't believe politicians when politicians say what they would do. The president was very clear. I don't think there's anybody that was clearer during the campaign trail. He even said, he said, you people will protest. Have you watched that video?
Yes.
He said you will protest.
Yeah,
but I will not, he said I will not back down. This fuel subsidy is gone. So if the president has said that, there was plan, there was the economic plan that he released during the campaign, there was a transition plan. The plan was very, very clear. We're going to, from day one, we're going to apply shock treatment. It was clearly stated. So unless we are just pretending as if we don't read our manifesto, or we don't read the plans that politicians set out during electionary campaigns, or we don't want to believe them, then that's where we say the president did not plan. The president planned. The part of the plan was that the president was also going to inform to reform. That's why you see right there on the dais, even from the first month, second month, third month that the president was in office, he always directly addressed the Nigerian people, pleading for patience, indicating that this is a short-term pain, medium-term pain that will result in long-term gains. That's part of the plan.
But another thing is, you said short-term pain.
Yeah.
What's the timeline? Who or what defines what short-term is? Nigerians have waited 2 years now, and some people still say, well, that pain is still on.
Well, you're not going to exactly deliver joy in every sector of the economy, but we're already seeing joy. We've seen inflation come down. We've seen the foreign reserve rise. We've seen the economic GDP growth being the highest in the last 14, 15 years. That is already the real thing. In the CNG sector, we've delivered 10,000 new jobs. We've delivered $500 million worth of new investments. And in the oil sector, we deliver $8 to $10 billion worth of investment. The oil sector energy is back. You can ask anyone that is involved in the sector. Contracts are being awarded. Fields are being reopened. We are seeing joy. Infrastructure is being built. Tell the people that are providing the concrete, the mix, the sand mix to Coastal Road, to the Sokoto Badagry Road, to all the different construction going across the country. Look at the FCT. It's wearing a new look. Are you not seeing joy? I live here.
But there's a sing-song now among Nigerians, and it's as if it's now a trend. Everybody complains of hardship. There is hardly anyone that would admit that they are beginning to see these reforms yield results.
No, I think...
And it seems it's only the government's people that we hear talking about the results.
No, I think the noisome minority is what you are listening to. The only way you can measure the popularity of any government is in elections. That's the only way. Even if you do opinion polls, you're still just polling. But in the last 2 years, the president has delivered almost 100% flawless election performance when it comes to subnational elections. It took over Edo State. The Delta is in the bucket. Akwa Ibom is in the bucket. So what else shows that the Nigerian people actually...
That's election, and it's a different strategy.
No,
we're talking about now the standard of living.
Yes.
The standard of living for Nigerians. Not everyone agrees. Even
it will take time.
Let
me say this. The honest truth across the world, it's not just Nigeria. The world is facing serious economic disconnects. I mean, AI, technology, all of these things are changing the way people actually interact with the economies. And of course, there's naturally playing there's inflation and all of that. So it's not unique to Nigeria. What Nigerians are actually finding out is that it's even easier sometimes to make money while in Nigeria than being abroad again. Today, yeah, and that's the reality. I lived overseas for 13 years. I've been back for 10 years. My life is better here in Nigeria than abroad. So I think ultimately we need as a people to understand that this thing takes time. We cannot, like I said, you are using new roads here in Abuja every day. That is because the president has been able to direct money that used to go to buying fuel from overseas and then getting it lost across the border to smuggling, and then reinvesting that money in the Nigerian roads, in Nigerian infrastructure, through the Ministry of FCT. These are real consequential life consequences of these reforms that we're talking about. More than 500,000 students now go to school through NELFund because we've been able to redirect that money. Universities are getting new mini-grids, fiber optic across our universities are being set up. We're seeing the CNG buses, the EV buses being deployed there too. Our students their lives are much better. So at the end of the day, it's not going to be as if we're going to deliver better life automatically to everybody. But what we are saying is that if you look at where we were yesterday to where we are today, the APC government in the last 2 years has been able to deliver a better result than ever before. And ultimately, this is a continuous exercise. We are leveraging the fact that Mr. President is taking off from another progressive government in President Buhari, who did some necessary investments, say, in security. If Mr. President did not have that security bulwark where we invested in our Navy, we invested in our Air Force, we invested in our military, unlike what we met in 2015, where we met an almost vacuous military, that they were being supplied empty helicopters without tires, without even rotor blades. People were burying money in sockaway pits, and we had the bankrupt leadership for 16 years of the PDP. So the opposition can talk. The point I'm making is that those people who drive the car into the ditch have no right to act or tell those people who are trying to get out of the ditch they're not getting it out fast enough. The opposition should look at themselves. How did they manage Nigeria for 16 years? I ask all of them all the time. Tell me one single major infrastructural development that you delivered in your 16 years. 16 years. I can mention, sitting down on this seat now, more than 20 that the APC government had delivered in the last 10 years.
Well, President Bola Tinubu, when he removed that fuel subsidy, said that it will help the country save so much money to also be able to invest on infrastructure, health, and other sectors. And indeed, we're seeing education, and including health and security, get more funds.
Yes.
But there's also more money going to state governors.
Correct.
But it appears as if attention is still more on President Tinubu, despite this divestment and reallocation of more funds to the state governors.
Yeah.
Would you also join those that say that since the state governors are not doing enough?
Yes, states and local governments. President Tinubu delivered the best gift Nigeria can even get in democracy to us last year when we went to the Supreme Court and secured the judgment that basically granted local government autonomy. Nigerians know that those local governments and those states now get more money than they used to. And it's the onus of this. At the end of the day, if you read the Supreme Court judgment on I believe it's the EFCC case versus one of the state governors, where the Supreme Court said, look, we cannot legislate ethics at the state level, at the federal level. EFCC, yes, can deal with state governors based on the use of federal wire system for money laundering and all that. But when it comes to stealing, states by themselves have to legislate against stealing of the money in their purse. And that requires what I call elite engagement. Every one of us in our respect must go back to our respective states where we have a voice and insist that our governors act right. In states where the state elites have risen up and said, look, we have to manage this state well, we've seen a difference. In states where they've taken a back seat and everybody have vacated home and everybody's in Abuja or in Lagos or somewhere overseas, it's just all talk. It's like the same thing about Nigeria. The reason why you're saying accountability and better governance in Nigeria over time. I mean, 2007, we had an election, no election in this country. That even the president that benefited from that, late President Yaradua, said that this was wrong. The only reason why you're able to have all this electoral reform from 2007 to 2010 to 2012, later 2015, and even up until 2022, when the last electoral act was passed, was because people's attention was focused on it. And who are those people? The elites. So you and I as elites, and I tell people all this, if you have a university degree, you are 7% of the world. It's only 7% of the world that's university degree. So if you have a university degree, if you're listening to me, you're an elite. You should care about what happens in your state. You should care about what happens in your local government. It's only when we do that then we are acting the true spirit of federal democracy. Our democracy is not just Democrats.
How can we now, in real terms, how can these be turned around to ensure that not that you're not interested in what's happening at the center, you should be,
yeah.
But you should also be more interested in what is happening at the local and state level. Because even most elites, as we say, including those at the grassroots who are not elites, are more interested in, for instance, if the primary healthcare center is not working, it's Tinubu.
You'll blame Tinubu.
If a road is bad, nobody knows if it's a federal road, a local government, or state, it's Tinubu.
Yes.
How do we change that?
There are two things.
Mindset?
Number one is a psyche, right? It's a psyche, is a carryover of the military era, where everything was centralized. And of course, the military liked that because they wanted their attention focused to be on the commander-in-chief. So I think that psyche needs to change over time, especially by and led by the political elites. Those of us who are here in Abuja, also in the way we have these conversations, we must have the nuance. We must be able to say, look, this road is a state road. This responsibility is a state responsibility. And also the National Assembly has a lot of work to do to also make sure that they avoid taking on responsibilities of subnational governments that should otherwise be theirs. I've seen sometime even in the role I currently have, where National Assembly member approach myself, CNG conversion center being set up by federal government. I say, my God, that is the work of private sector. That has nothing to do with why will federal government be setting up mechanic workshops. So we must, it starts from the mindset that federal government should do everything. But the truth of the matter is that our constitution is very clear in its schedule about what is exclusive, what is concurrent, and what is residual. And so we as a country must always, in our conversations as elites, our National Assembly in its own legislation, when you see what the National Assembly sometimes does, for example, in budgets, where you see the building of a palace fence in the Ministry of Agriculture's budget, that's wrong. We should take out, let's focus on what is important. Let's major on the majors and stop majoring on the minors. And that, I think, is going to change the psyche. Slowly but surely, I think, for example, with the win by Mr. President in the court with respect to LG autonomy, there's going to be a trend towards more emphasis on local governance and, of course, state governance as time goes on. Because people will realize that their lives are more impacted by what that local government chairman can do in terms of the primary healthcare center. If you're at home, if you go visit your hometown and you have an heart attack, you are more likely to die because that local government chairman did not do his work than if President Tinubu does not do his work. If you are going to get to your hometown, you're going to pass through federal state roads, but most of the roads you're going to pass through while you are staying at home is going to be in the local government road. If you are going to be there, also whether the children of your friends, your relatives, your cousins will get educated will depend largely on that LEA primary school, which is controlled largely by the local government chairman. So we need, as a people, need to start having a real recognition. I think an area which all of us have been talking about also is security. I think it's time for us to really look at how do we truly bring back the state and local police. And those police systems must respond to the needs of their local communities. You must be able to have some kind of police board at those levels where people get into those boards, of course, elected but non-paid, where it is voluntary, where they actually control the hire and fire of police officers at their own local level. Of course, there's still going to be the state and national police, but those local police are going to be very, very, very critical to us reimagining that we're in charge of our control of our own destiny.
Yeah, 2027 will also be very critical, but I would like to take you quickly back to President Bola Tinubu's speech at the National Assembly, June 12th speech.
Correct.
Some people say he used that platform to affirm his political dominance, but he was able to clearly state that he's not responsible for the crisis happening in other political parties, in the opposition political parties. But we've also seen, this rhetoric or this narrative pushed by the opposition every time, pointing fingers to President Bola Tinubu and the administration for actively playing a role in their party and causing that, should I say, putting it in disarray, maybe because of the Wike factor, I don't know. And also Peter Obi has also clearly stated, sorry I'm mentioning his name again, because he has also clearly stated that, well, the problem in our party is President Tinubu's political party and the government of the day.
No, most of them are the crime foul where there's none. There's no president that had to deal with internal sabotage and saboteurs than this president when he was setting up his own party. All of them are just being childish. They need to look inwards. I mean, Mr. President, the reality is this. Mr. President was in Alliance for Democracy. I was a member, right? But he had a vision. He realized that at that time, Alliance for Democracy had been compromised. If you read the book of Chief B.C. Akonde, if you read Baba's book, he talked about how AD was completely compromised by the then leading political party, the PDP, where they were even setting up parallel conventions when they were having a meeting here in Abuja in 2002, 2003.
So that means it's possible for the ruling party to actually
it was not. It's not. That's the work. The work of political engineering and political games is that you must be able to counter your enemy or your opposition in this case, whether you are leading or you're not leading. The APC as an opposition party, as AC, as ACN, also had moles in PDP. And that's how we were able to bring them down to where they are. Right? So it's not as if we started this only because we're in the ruling party. No, if you want to rise politically, you must be able to play the political game. But it's the work of every party has moles in it. We just had the former governor of the APC of Kaduna State leave the APC last year. He was playing the role of spoiler. But he saw there was no room. He had to leave, which is better for us. But they've not been able to get rid of the people that they have in their midst, not because of us, but because of them. We knew what President Tinubu did to the point of AD when he wanted to extricate himself from that situation. He can let Peter Obi do it if it's easy. You have to be a leader. You have to unite your people. You must have political sagacity. You must have vision. You must have kahunas. You must have courage. And so, at the end of the day, a lot of them, they're just coming across as crybabies. They, in fact, make their case worse to the Nigerian people because it looks like you need to grow a political pair. If you actually want to confront the APC the way you are behaving, you need to look inwards At the end of the day, the APC has no duty to help them resolve the internal political crisis. Our duty is to make sure that our progressive agenda, this APC is the first national progressive party from the right or from the left. All through our history, we've been governed by parties from the right that have conservative, reactionary agenda. We are the first party that we say that the people, the poor, we are pro-poor agenda. That is what the APC has. They're the first in the history of Nigeria. So it's not easy. Okay. And we've tried many times. We tried with AG, we tried with UPN, we tried with SDP, we tried with AC.
We're running out of time. But lastly, before we go, with all said and done, how do you think the 2027 election will play out? You know, will it still be a nail-biting experience or contest like what we had in 2023? Or would you say President Bola Tinubu's challengers would have lost him?
It seems like the challengers I would say they are self-defeating already. And again, politics is about psychology. There was a psychological boost for them in 2023 because, of course, there was a feeling that the ruling party was not exactly united behind its own candidate. But now, if someone had won from the outside the way President Bola Tinubu did and has now dominated the political space like close as he has done, it's very difficult to see how anybody now sitting at the seat of power and understanding and controlling the narrative himself that somehow this, I'm sorry to say, crybaby parties will be able to emerge.
All right, then. Yes, thank you so much. A fine place to leave it. Well, that's all on our program today. Our guests, the program coordinator and CEO of the Presidential Compressed Natural Gas Initiative, Engineer Michael Oluwagbemi, talking to us about President Bola Tinubu's strategy, achievement, and successes. Well, that's all on the program today. You can see this episode again on TVC News YouTube channel. Thank you for watching. I am Femi Akonde. See you next time.
There is always more to a story than the screaming headline. The part of a story that is not told casts a shadow. It's like the part of an object that is not reached by light. On TVC News, I'm able to explore the many angles there are to a story, talking to stakeholders, asking the difficult questions, and digging for facts. I believe the viewers are able to make a better decision if they're well informed and understand not just a part, but the complete story. TVC News, first with breaking news.